Fresh clashes on the border between Turkey and Greece as tensions remain high between the neighbours after Turkey decided last week to open its border for migrants to leave for Europe. EU interior ministers are meeting in Brussels later to discuss the new influx of migrants. Joining me now from Brussels, our correspondent Dave Keating. Dave, what measures will be talked about at this meeting?
Well, those interior ministers are just arriving now at the European Council, and they're going to be discussing what else can be done for Greece beyond what was mentioned yesterday by Commission President Ursula von der Leyen when she went down to the Greek-Turkish border to show EU solidarity with the country. Greece has been complaining that they're being overwhelmed by this current arrival of migrants, which was kicked off when Turkey said they would be opening the doors on their side, reneging on their deal with the EU to hold migrants back in the exchange for EU money in order to deal with the refugee population in Turkey. And so migrants have been going to the border. Now, yesterday we saw President von der Leyen as well as President Sassoli from the European Parliament and President Michel from the European Council really express solidarity for Greece, even in light of all the controversy about some of those images we're seeing from the border. Really, social media has been alive with videos showing Greek border authorities mistreating migrants, and there have been complaints about human rights. So what we're really keen to see here from this interior ministers meeting is whether other EU countries will also back Greece in how they've been handling that border situation. There's likely to be some tense talks here, and it may be that those interior ministers, in exchange for offering further help, will ask for guarantees from the Greek government that they will at least fix the optics of what's going on at the border. In terms of what they can offer, though, it's fairly limited on the EU side. The EU has already announced $350 million in funding. Frontex troops, those are EU border guards, ships, Frontex ships. But in terms of the Frontex's size and what it's capable of, it's fairly limited. The reality is that policing the EU's borders is up to the EU member states. And in times like this, it's actually hard for interior ministers from other EU countries to be able to offer very much at all.
Dave, there's another meeting of defence ministers going on right now. What are they talking about?
Yeah, that's happening concurrently. They should be wrapping up in a little bit. They're talking about the situation on the southern border of Turkey. That's the one with Syria. That's the conflict that kicked all of this off in Idlib province, where Turkey invaded that northern border a while ago to the EU's great consternation. And now we're seeing a proxy war between Turkey and Russian-backed Syrian forces. And the EU is very, very concerned about that. That's why Josep Borrell, the EU Foreign Affairs chief, is in Ankara having talks with Turkey about what can be done at that southern border. So while you have the interior ministers here talking about that northern border with the EU, the defense ministers are talking about the southern border with Syria. There are a lot of concerns that the situation on both sides could spiral out of control.
Thank you, Dave. Dave Keating in Brussels for us.